Good morning, everybody. I'm gonna be mute for just a second. I got up a little late, but you do want to short this, okay? Even on the 5-minute time frame for a scalp and towards the end of the week, okay? Hold on, let me go ahead and get the stream linked in chat. I only have one arm right now because I do not have my other arm with the cast all the way through my shirt yet, so give me a second. All right, I'll be right back, everybody, and I'll be mute, but you do want to short this here. All right, everybody, we're back. Okay. So, a couple things we're watching here, and let me just go ahead and delete this because I am back. Okay, so the main thing here is on the 30-minute time frame. We have this really large head and shoulders building. Now, I showed this in last night's video, but of course not everybody had a chance to watch it. But this structure here is its own individual structure, which is that very large inverse cup. Go ahead and mark that. All right, so we have that super large inverse cup, and from that, we now have, hold on, I wanted to go to the hour time. We now have this head and shoulders building, and actually a fairly large head and shoulders because once this smaller one builds there, we will have the liquidity for an even larger one. So that's kind of what I'm looking for over this week is this right shoulder to build, hold down, start forming that larger right shoulder. And from there, take that liquidity and head back down to the 628. So that's sort of what we're looking for. Now, the big reason why we're wanting to short this and why we're not trying to, identify this as some form of cup and handle is because there's the blockade on the Strait of Hormuz. And with that, oil prices are going to be rising pretty drastically. Again, they're above that, decade-long trend line again, starting to break that head and shoulders that's forming. Sorry, I'm trying to draw all this. It looks a little wonky, but bear with me a moment. But this head and shoulders right here, very likely going to be invalidated, potentially have this smaller head and shoulders, but not really looking forward to this heading downward just yet. Again, with the United States blockade, it's extremely likely that this forms a cup from here, invalidates a lot of this prior structure, and go ahead and takes us down or takes us upward. So oil is going to be playing a massive role again. We thought that with the ceasefire, the oil volatility might be finally cooling down, but that's not the case. Ceasefire is pretty much out the window, unless the news changed while I was sleeping in the last like 4 hours. But it doesn't look like it. Now with drip, and again we are continuing to enter this with drip. What I'm personally looking for is the next buys within this red range, or if we pull down basically to that $3.07 or 77 cents. Um, I'm not adding to the calls currently. I do have those calls that I have. I'm just letting them, continue to ride for right now. But primarily, I want to be adding into equity positions on this. I don't expect a reverse split anytime soon. So I do expect us to, really see this 7 through $10 range. Well, 7 through 11, excuse me. 7-Eleven. Okay, let's go back to tech and everything. So one thing we're looking at with QQQ, and this is kind of that same structure that we have building on, well, no, this is daily time frame. This is what I was showing in the video last night, where since the beginning of the year, we've been seeing massive selling out of tech. And then ever since we've had the oil news come back, or, the ceasefire news, um, we've started to see a lot of weight shift back into tech. Well, very likely all this weight is going to head back downward, which, we can correlate to the SPY and semiconductors and everything else. But with semiconductors, I'm actually expecting them to hold a lot of their weight for the year. Um, Again, this is the year to date. Ever since the beginning of the new year, they just have absolutely been taking off. So I'm really thinking that a lot of um, a lot of the market bulls are focusing their weight into semiconductors rather than tech. That way they can gain the weight of, semiconductor companies selling semiconductors, selling chips, all that good stuff, while not having to play the speculative role of, focusing on growth so much, excuse me. Okay, enough of that rambling. So with the 5 minute time frame here, our short positions are looking very good. Again, you can exit at the 20 mile. That's, you know, ideal for what our rule set tails, but potentially this can be a head or a cup and handle. So if this is a cup and handle, then we would see very, very likely the breakout above the 20 mile, or excuse me, the breakout from the 20 mile support retest. I'm not expecting that though. I'm expecting much more of a breakdown or consolidation. You might consolidate sideways for a little bit and then break down. But I am looking for the breakdown, and there's a couple reasons why. So I do want to show why. But on the daily time frame, even with the SPY being down, you know, negative 0.37%, the 5 mile is currently at the 674.31. So that means with this 676.30 range is the upper bounds of the 5 mile. And I just want to go ahead and hide the drawings for a moment. But with the upper bounds of the 5 mile being tested, that means that very likely we will see the full test of the 5 mile itself, which means that we can pull down all the way to the 672.30 um, on the 5 minute time frame with the drawings and hiding the moving averages. That pulls us down to about there. Okay. Which is slightly above this massive liquidity gap. What is that very likely going to create is an inverse cup. So we will be looking for that. We will also be looking for if this is going to form a head and shoulders. So we are looking for bearish structure on the day. Now, a couple other signals we need to look at is VVIX. So the VVIX was down towards the 109.90 today. It's not too much higher than that currently. It's at the 110.30, but it's still, very elevated. So we will be watching if this rises or falls during the day, but if this continues to rise, which very likely it will, I'm expecting it to head back up towards this 113, 116 range. Now on pig and pig and liquid, we did see some selling in the morning, a little bit of buying reprieve from that, but still overall larger selling structures occurring here. So we got this double top, very likely trying to take out this 79.32 range. So we will be looking for that. Okay, so that's what we're looking for so far on the day. Sorry, I haven't had a chance to really look at chat too much yet. Good morning, everybody. But we will see if Hig is forming an inverse head and shoulders there. I'm not expecting that. I'm expecting more so of an inverse cup to the downside. QQQ on the 5 minute time frame. I do apologize for the purple. I will swap to a different screen in a second here. We do see that QQQ is at the 20 mile. So that short position worked out great, even though we took it on SPY. But let's go ahead and check SPY. SPY is not at the 20 mile yet. But we are starting to form a little bit of a head and shoulders here. Also an inverse cup with potentially a handle. Okay, so some large buying on the day validated the inverse cup. Actually creates an additional short position, I believe. It does. So I'm actually going to add into those shorts in just a second here. And I want to check the news just to make sure Nothing with the news is triggering this response. Um, no, not really seeing anything. So, yep, gonna go ahead and shorten to this. Okay. So our first short position, we are gonna mark out because they did invalidate this position here. They did a little bit of a push upward. Now the position is good, so when I mean invalidated, you should still be holding it. But they did do a little bit of a bounce here. Now I want to see QQQ, and I want to look at some structure here. Okay, so we're still good in terms of this head and shoulders. Mark this big liquidity gap. So potentially we could see them take that out, but I'm not really expecting that. Let me go ahead and look at the VVIX here. Probably seeing it pulling down because of this. So pull down to the 108.34. Again, I'm not seeing any news or anything that's really triggering that response so far. So we do see oil pulling down. So something has to be going on. But I'm not seeing anything out of unusual wills. Not really seeing anything just yet. So this might just be some sort of algorithmic response. But we want to make sure that we're not getting squeezed out here. So this still looks good. And I do want to look at the 1 minute time frame. Starting to see a little bit of a 1 minute head and shoulders building there. Doesn't hold a lot of weight because it's, of course on the 1 minute time frame. So we did short about there. Again, targeting the 20 mile at the 676.51. Wondering if this was a stop loss hunt or something like that. Was not seeing any sort of news to prompt this reaction. Look at the treasuries. Treasuries were pulling down, but starting to pull back up again. I want to go back to the HIG because the HIG will really tell us what's going on here. So HIG, a little bit of buying. We don't see the cup fully closed yet, which on HIG every single cent matters. So we will be watching for that very closely. But if we have a rejection from here, then this would be forming this head and shoulders. So we will be looking for that. But something caused a large bit of buying into the market. Not seeing anything out of the news. Um, Oil so far from the dip is being bought up, and the dip was almost exactly to that decade-long trend line. So something's going on here. Okay, so the news was New York Post, Iranian officials are studying abandoning uranium enrichment as a U.S. condition for ending the war. Okay, well, that makes a lot of sense why we would see that buying candle. Um, Very likely we will see this news sold off, but we will watch EVVIX. So it did pull down to 108.32. Um, it's back up to 108.81. So slowly heading back upward by 1 minute time frame. Nothing remarkable just yet. That did cause some buying out of TLT this morning. So I'm still holding my short here. I'm not exiting this position yet. Even with this news, I am expecting the market to sell downward, but we have to be very careful. Bitcoin, let's see. So are starting to see a little bit of buying. 5 minute upper Bollinger, so we will be expecting a little bit of selling on that. Not really forming any major structure yet. Potentially some, or potentially this handle here. So we will be watching that, but within Bitcoin, even with that cupping completed, we should be anticipating a pullback, which overall within equities, that should echo the same. Now, SPY 1 minute time frame, we do have to be a little cautious of this very small bullish cup, because if we do have that small bullish cup, then that will say that very likely we'll have a handle and head upward. So we're going to watch for that very closely. VVIX at 108.60, 108.56. So no real signal yet that this is seeing, major buying in terms of our volatility instruments just yet. Now again, I really am expecting a rejection here, but the market might try to be buying up this news. Let's go back to the HIG. So HIG, it looks like we are starting to see this cup wanting to close here. Still a cent off, which that's pretty much hitting that level. Liquid, we're starting to see green on the day. But I'm still not going to be exiting our short positions yet. So even with that cup closing on the 1 minute time frame, which it hasn't closed entirely, but it does look like it wants to. If it does, then again, even with this cup top, we should be expecting it to pull downward, form that handle, so that will give us an exit on the short positions. If that's going to be the case, um, if we have a rejection in this range, then this cup top would be invalidated and this would send us downward. So we will be watching that, but very likely it's going to try to fill that cup. Now oil still continuing upwards from that news. I want to delete some of these other structures here. So I want to delete pretty much everything besides this decade trend line. Goes basically right at the 129. So we'll put that. But ever since the morning, with that news coming out, it has been buying upward, and this is oil. So that will very likely start pulling against the market if we see continued buying. VVIX here still pulling down slightly, so 108.32. That is a bit of a bullish signal. So very likely we did hit the cup top here. Check our 1 minute time frame. We did. Okay, so from that cup top, we are expecting the handle to pull downward. Now, it's very likely this 20 mile here is going to try to align with us, or this is the 1 minute time frame. So the 20 mile on the 5 minute time frame will still be pretty far away. But again, this is still within that short range. So we will mark this again. They are trying to squeeze us out of our positions today pretty much. Back where I started it. So this short ended up failing as well. Kind of a rare day. Usually we don't see multiple multiple short entries like that fail. But it happened. Um, Still going to be holding my puts currently because with us starting to push so heavily against this upper Bollinger, even on the 5 minute time frame, this does create the conditions to short. On the 30 minute time frame, this is also giving us the short position as well. So on the 30 minute time frame, this is telling us that we have room all the way back down to the 676. 30 minute time frame as well has not filled this cup to the upside. Can start heading there, but it hasn't done so yet. So we're just going to mark that. Now, one thing I do want to look at is the hourly. About the drawings for a moment. Yeah, this head and shoulders is still completely viable. We saw the left shoulder, the head, potentially the right shoulder. If we see a rejection here and we start seeing selling to the downside, then that will, continue this head and shoulders that we were looking at earlier within the session. So with the short positions here, we are really looking for this 676.97. Again, I am still holding my short positions from the two earlier entries, with us pushing very, very heavily against the upper Bollinger on multiple time frames. Um, for me, this creates, the 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 short entry. Even if the market is looking, fairly bullish on the overset. Now the VVIX still pulling down pretty low. Did pull down all the way to the 108.04, and it is currently at 108.19. Okay, so the blockade started as of right now. So the US blockade just started. So very likely that's going to weigh against our equities slightly. But we will, you know, keep a watch on that. Sorry, I've not had a chance to look at chat this morning yet. We've been just very busy going over everything. So USO still holding a lot of weight from the day on the 5-minute time frame. This is telling us that we should be heading all the way back up towards this 133 range. With the USA doing the blockade on the Strait of Hormuz as of 4 minutes ago, very likely it's going to push those prices upward. Now on SPY, I'll check the 1-minute time frame. This potentially can be that cup and handle we were talking about. So if we see the continued buying from here, this would be pretty much squeezing us into that 680.44. I'm not expecting that. I'm really expecting a lot of this buying action to be, um, you know, really just taking out puts on the day, but I could be incorrect. DVIX still pulling downward. Again, I am looking for a pretty large leg upward. Now we are starting to see this taper away from the lower Bollinger, but again, I am looking for this to pull upward towards that 113 range today. And tearing this to the 5-minute time frame. And this is showing that from the upper Bollinger, the um, volatility had the room to pull downward. It did. Now with it hitting the 20 mont, we are looking for it to bounce upward, um, you know, to show us that we're going to be seeing some selling on the day so that our short positions do not get entirely hosed. Now we will be looking to see if this cup closes to the upside. Now on the 5-minute time frame here, they did not even give us a call entry, so not the most ideal day in terms of what our signals have been giving us so far. But we will see if this cup takes to the upside. If it does, then that will pretty much tell us to exit the shorts. Um, Within HIG, we are seeing buying as well, and the ADL on HIG is, looking pretty decent, even on the 30-minute time frame. But within the the sales within the actual shares, I'm not really seeing major buys just yet. So have to be cautious of that. Now I want to look at a couple other things. So semiconductors here on the 5-minute time frame has been rejecting, unlike SPY. So on the 1-minute time frame, this is starting to form that head and shoulders here. And this is semiconductors, so they do hold quite a lot of weight right now. I do want to look at the SPY. So with this on the SPY, this is that head and shoulders from semiconductors. If it decides to play out, so we will be watching that closely. And on QQQ, that head and shoulders is not so much a head and shoulders, it's more so this cup and handle. Now with this nested cup here, we should be again expecting a handle. We will see if this handle gives us a rejection to the downside to fully reject this cup, and that would form an inverse cup to the downside. Or if we're going to, continue seeing a breakout to the upside. Excuse me. Good morning, everybody. Sorry, I haven't had a lot of time to look at chat. So we will be looking for semiconductors to continue rejecting there. We will be looking for SPY to continue rejecting here. Now I do want to look at oil, a little bit of a sell in here, but so far, excuse me, this isn't showing major bearish structure yet. I mean, potentially this can be forming an inverse cup downward, but not exactly seeing that just yet. We will be watching for that. The VVIX is pulling down very, very low, so at the 108.14. And I do want to look at NVIDIA and Microsoft. So NVIDIA's been pretty much buying the entire morning. Let's look at structure. This looks wonky, I know, but this still counts as a head and shoulders. It has not been invalidated. So if we see, thank you. So if we see continued selling within that, then we will see. Okay, so we'll just grab it. Fine. Hey, oh, if we see continued selling within NVIDIA, then we will be seeing, um, this right shoulder building out on the 5-minute time frame with the upper Bollinger just being heavily pushed into. This is telling us that very likely we should be seeing some form of pullback here on NVIDIA. So if we get that pullback, that will be, um, you know, taking us back on QQQ, by everything else. Now, Microsoft, we had a little bit of a pullback here. So Microsoft did have the short position workout this morning. So they would have had the 20 mile exit with a bounce. So again, looking for a 20 mile exit. Now in terms of structure on Microsoft, we're still playing into this larger head and shoulders. So if we do see a rejection from this range, this will be giving us the liquidity downward. SPY seeing a little bit of a rejection. So just the very beginning of what we're starting to look for. See on the 5-minute time or 1-minute time frame. I do want to see this inverse cup completed because I want to see um this prior potential bullish cup invalidated entirely. So I am looking for the inverse cup to complete. From the inverse cup completing, we will be looking for the handle. The handle very likely taking us downward. That would give us the structure to take us downward on the 5-minute time frame as well. So we will be looking for that. Now on the VVIX here, very slight bounce, but again, I want to see, basically like $5 of upside here, to really suggest that we're going to be having the selling that we're expecting to see. USO, oil, we are seeing that bounce. So again, this is kind of what I'm looking for. I'm really looking for this cup to complete to the upside, us to really start grabbing some of this liquidity that the market was really, playing with over the weekend and everything. So mainly looking for that on oil. But with the blockade, we should be expecting oil to push upward for the day. I'd be very surprised to see the United States blockade um, turn into bullish price action. Now on the SPY here, the 1 minute inverse cup did form, so that's good. That formed exactly like we're looking for. So now we're starting to form this handle. From this handle, we should start seeing a lot further downside. So we will be watching that very closely. Okay, everybody, I'm gonna mute for just a second. Sorry I haven't been able to look at chat. I'm looking at chat just now. Um, I have started entering puts for the end of the week, just to make that very, very clear. Okay, I am expecting bearish price action throughout the week. Now, we are seeing a little bit of buying in the day so far in SPY. However, I do attribute that to the news from this morning with the potential, um, I'm mincing my words very badly, with the Iranian officials saying that, potentially they can look into getting rid of uranium enrichment or a, potential deal, which that's what the United States has been looking for. That's the entire reason why we're at war with them. Um, so that would be an actually very, very bullish catalyst to the upside if we don't see, that continued selling like we're expecting. But besides that bullish catalyst, potentially giving us that news, we were expecting selling throughout the day. Now, the 5 month is currently at and I actually just want to mark this here. Moment. Need to go check on my daughter. 1 second, everybody. We'll be right back. But I do want to mark the 5 month because this is kind of the level I am expecting the SPY to head down to during today. I know there's a lot going on my screen right now. I do apologize. But this is the expectation. The expectation really is to be heading down within the rest of the day. Um, Building this head and shoulders. We do have the liquidity for a smaller one here as well. So we are looking for this head and shoulders on multiple different time frames. This right shoulder coincides very well with the 20 mile here on the 5 minute time frame. So I will be looking for that. But I'm gonna mute for just a minute, everybody. I will be right back. But this is what we're looking for. I'm just gonna write a little note here because I don't know exactly how long I'm gonna be gone here. It's just gonna be a few minutes, but okay. So I wanna mark this in white just so that we're all on the same page here. I want to delete some of these drawings just so that it isn't such a mess. Don't worry, my wife's with my daughter right now, so she's not unattended. Okay, that's what we're looking for, everybody. I will be right back in just a few minutes. All right, everybody, I am back. Okay, let's see. We had a little buying while I was back, but this is still this inverse handle. Now, oil did spike up a little bit. Sorry, I was looking at my phone for a minute. Okay, so on the 1 minute time frame here, a couple things we do have to contend with. Potentially smaller cup forming. It's hard to say if that's that smaller cup though. We did not fully complete it. Technically being just that few cents off can lead to that rejection. Top of this level is at the 679.51, which we did not get to, surprisingly. So that smaller cup did not fully close yet. It does look like it wants